Welcome to Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. In the next half hour, you'll obtain insights and tools to transform your life using the biblical principles found in the 12-step program. We believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience because we all have struggles in life. Struggles with addictions, food, depression, anxiety, and relationships, to name a few. You'll be encouraged to see how others have found a new way of life with hope for the future through life recovery. Your host is Steve Arterburn, founder of New Life Ministries and Women of Faith, author of over 100 books, and a sought-after speaker and teacher. Steve is the co-editor of the Life Recovery Bible, the #1 selling recovery Bible. With over 3 million copies sold, this is the Bible given to inmates by Prison Fellowship and the Pew Bible for the Salvation Army. Now here's Steve.
Hi there, Steve Arterburn here. Welcome to Life Recovery Today. I am hoping that this is going to be a great program for you. You know, within the steps of life recovery, well, we follow one step after another. We don't skip steps. We don't do the 12th step before the step 1. Now, some people do, and of course, there's a problem with that. Well, today we're going to hear from Dr. Joe Elliott. Now, Joe is a psychologist and a researcher in behavioral science. He's a brilliant guy. He's worked with sex offender inmates in prison. He's also an Army veteran, Special Forces. So he is someone, when you're in his presence, I'm telling you, he's somebody that you respect. And for that reason, a lot of folks that work with him respect him both as a man who has physical strength, skills beyond what most of us have, but also his intellect, the research that he's done. He really knows how to help people. Well, you know, we do an Every Man's Battle workshop for people with sexual integrity problems, men with sexual integrity problems. And we don't just let anybody facilitate those because it's so important. There are a lot of people counting on us to do a great job when a man finally ends up at Every Man's Battle. Well, Joe's one of those facilitators, and he does a great job. And so I'm really happy to get to share who he is and his insight. And today we're going to have Joe talk to us about step 8 to show us what it really means, because a lot of people don't fully understand the depth of that 8th step. So here's Joe. He's amazing. I hope you'll agree when you finish listening to Joe.
Hello. Welcome back to Life Recovery Today's video series on the 12 steps. I'm Dr. Joe Elliott, and in this 2-part segment, we'll be taking a look at step 8. In this first video, I'll present step 8 and offer some explanations and insights on how to take it. Then, in part 2, we'll consider common challenges to progress that you're likely to encounter while you're taking step 8. In this presentation, you're going to want to have your workbook or at least some note paper and a pen or pencil. Now, step 8 states, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Now, in a few minutes, I'll unpack that in more detail. But first, let's review the general principle of the 12-step program of recovery. Namely, the word step was chosen very deliberately. It's a word picture. When I walk, it is not possible for me to take any step before my first step. And then my next step has to be my second step, not my third or my 8th or my 12th step. The point is, as you embark on your recovery and your study of the 12 steps, there's nothing wrong with reading or viewing ahead. But we do emphatically tell you, don't do any steps, particular work, before you have fully completed all the preceding steps. So why does step 8 fall in the process where it does? Because its success is predicated on your having fully completed step 7, where we, quote, humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. Now, this is not to say that God will have completed that work, but his initiation of that work, and more directly, the humility that you will have continued to grow in step 7, is very necessary for you to carry on while you take step 8. Or should I say, it will carry you. Also, if you haven't been reminded recently, remember that your best start to step 8 is like all the other steps: prayer. Ask God to have his way in your work, to make you receptive to what will be revealed, and to bless your efforts. Step 8 reads that we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Now, I'd like you to please circle or write down the following words. First, circle or note the phrase, made a list. Next, circle the word all. Then the word harm. Circle willing. And finally, circle the final word, all. Okay? All right. Let's take a look at these key words in order. First, make a list. That means to make a list. But seriously, this is a labor-intensive step. You need to get several whole pieces of blank paper that are dedicated to this task. And by the way, we highly recommend that you handwrite the list rather than use a keyboard or a keyboard device. And that's because of the neuropsychological benefits that handwriting offers that typing does not. But don't not make your list if there's some reason that you must use a digital device. Next, the word all. That means all. And yes, I might make the same lame joke for all these words. You are going to list all the persons you have harmed in your life. Now, we're no longer talking about just the people impacted by whatever addictive or compulsive behavior from which you are recovering, whether it's overeating or codependency or sinful sexual behaviors. Now, you're going to start with the recent past and then reflect back year by year as far back as you can remember. Which brings us to the word harm. Harm can be physical, verbal, emotional, spiritual. Harm can come in the form of overt behavior, or it can result from neglect. Next is willingness. Now, this is more than just a superficial desire to complete the step. In fact, this is the component that is going to add the most time to your completing this step. Willingness is an attitudinal trait, and it can't be forced. Think about your least favorite food. Could you, right at this moment, force yourself to like it? No. Well, how about some food music genre or some other art form that you initially disliked, but now you can say that it grew on you, right? The same principle, though my example is certainly oversimplified. And finally, the last word, all. Why is this word here? Bad grammar or poor, weak writing skills? No. You will not have completed taking step 8 until you are willing to make amends to all the people on your list. As we'll see in part 2 of this video segment, this is one of the hardest parts of this step. Now, like all the 12 steps, there is no common time frame for completing it. You can't really set a precise time goal. That being said, you should plan for multiple separate sittings over several days. And it's a good idea that during that period, have some scratch paper or Post-it notes handy when you're not working the step, when you're out and about, because you will have people come to mind at some unexpected times. In fact, you should expect that after you've completed steps 8, 9, all the way through 12, you'll probably later remember folks that you'd forgotten way back when you were writing your 8th step. For example, with me, years after I worked the 12 steps the first time, one night I had a dream about an acquaintance that I had mistreated that I had not remembered at all back when I worked my 8th step the first time. How do you know when you've completed the step and are ready to move on to step 9? Your last action during this step should be the same as your first: prayer. When you have truly exhausted your memory and you have expanded your understanding of what willingness entails, then offer a listening prayer. Let the Spirit guide you. Now we're going to take a break. In video 2 of this segment, we're going to take a look at common challenges that you are likely to encounter as you take step 8. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Are you going through your struggles alone? Do you want someone to talk to help you through your pain? Do you feel like a failure when you relapse again, telling yourself, next time will be different? Don't walk this path alone anymore. Join a life recovery group today and be a person that your friends and family can be proud of. God created us to be in community, and we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country, and if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. Life Recovery brings recovery to you, right where you are. You'll take a journey with others to find healing and freedom. Whether you're looking to join a group or start one, New Life Ministries is here for you. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or visit liferecoverytoday.net. It's hard to find a trusted friend when you're in crisis. Someone who's been there and understands, but who also has the training and skill to give you practical help. Family, friends, and churches want to help, but often they're not equipped to care for those dealing with problems like addiction and pornography, infidelity, anger, depression. New Life Ministries is here to provide help and hope in life's hardest places. We're not focused on making people feel better. We're focused on helping people do the work that will help them be better. At New Life, we have resources available to help you, like books, DVDs, CDs, workshops, and our network of licensed counselors. If you need help, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and begin your new life today. Life recovery isn't just about making the courageous choice to give up an addiction or dependency. It's a journey towards health, wholeness, and becoming your very best you. If you need resources to help you in your journey, we can help. There are many life recovery resources that you can do on your own, with a group, or with your church. We have Bibles, workbooks, and devotionals that you can use to work your recovery right where you are. That's the beauty of life recovery. To learn more or to get the Life Recovery Bible or any other life recovery resource, visit liferecoverytoday.net or call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Well, as Dr. Joe Elliott shared, step 8 is all about that value of willingness in recovery. I've often said you can know you have a problem, you can want it to be better, but without willingness, those two things are absolutely worthless. Willingness is that key principle in recovery. And we're always discovering, if we're truly doing the work of recovery, we're discovering new areas of unwillingness as we work through those steps. Nothing is a greater gift to ourselves than to discover, hey, here's a roadblock, here's a gate that's locked, and the lock is the lock of unwillingness. The issue of humility says to us, when we are humble, anything could happen. Any new area could be exposed if I'm humbly willing to look at myself and to know that, I've missed some things. So we want to explore the process. And when we explore the process of making amends in this next section, talk about willingness. Fortunately for me, I had the willingness to do it, and it really changed everything. Here's Joe.
Hello. Welcome to part 2 of the 8th segment in Life Recovery Today's video series on the 12 steps of recovery. I'm Dr. Joe Elliott, and in this part, we're going to take a look at difficulties and challenges to progress that you may encounter while working through step 8. Now, in part 1, I asked you to circle some words in the step work resource that you're using, and I'm going to refer back to those key ideas during part 2. But the number one challenge that I have observed in folks who are working step 8 is that they get hung up thinking about step 9, meaning they get distracted by imagining what it will be like making amends to various individuals on their list. Now, sometimes we are fearfully expecting to be humiliated or verbally attacked or worse. So, if it will help, then write down what I'm about to say. Step 8 is not step 9. And I'm not kidding. Step 9 is when you will begin actually making amends. You should not start trying to make amends to anyone before you have completed step 8. While you're working step 8, don't do the business of step 9. Now, that doesn't mean that you should refuse to respond to someone if they try to talk to you about it. And it's natural to wonder what is going to happen when you try to make amends. But this is not the work of step 8. Now, this is challenging for most people because, after all, to become willing to make amends must mean having some idea of what it is that you are willing to do, right? So, maybe you're feeling caught in a catch-22. But let's think again of what all amends will have in common. They are an effort to undo some harm that you've caused. Now, harm was one of the words that you circled during part 1 of this video segment. Recall that harm can be physical, verbal, emotional, or spiritual, and it can result from overt behavior or from neglect. A major difficulty for many folks working this step is the inclination to justify or minimize the harmful behavior. Now, sometimes this inclination is caused by pride. Sometimes this is caused by shame. And often there are elements of both at work outside of our awareness. Let's digress briefly to revisit the concept of shame. Remember, shame and guilt are different. Guilt says, I did a bad thing. Shame says, I am a bad thing. Shame is always a lie and needs to be rejected outright, immediately. But that's easier said than done, isn't it? The point is that shame, or the desire to avoid shame, can slow down our progress in making our list in step 8. Now, this is one of the main reasons that we plan to spread the task out over multiple sessions. Other mental blocks to our progress are resentment and defensiveness. A person working the 12 steps for, say, codependency might say, well, yes, I lied by omission, but he gets so angry at me. While someone in recovery from sexual sin might say, yes, it was a one-night stand, but she's a consenting adult. By now you know that the attitudes and actions of others cannot force you to do or not do anything. By the time you get to step 8, you can no longer deny that you are 100% responsible for your behaviors or omissions thereof. You probably have realized by now that this is another reason that the tasks of step 8 fall so far into the process. Now, while you're working on step 8, where might you encounter some resistance from others? And how should you respond? Now, in general, your step work should be done in private. Now, it's true that step 5 had you sharing your moral inventory with a trusted friend, and you will hear that in our ninth segment, that it's a good idea to discuss with a friend before making some amends. But in both of those cases, that friend should be more advanced than you in the 12-step recovery process. But back to the point. It's normal for friends to know that you've been working recovery, and it's natural for them to be curious and may ask you what it entails. You'll want to be circumspect in how much detail you share. If you talk about reflecting on your past and trying to repair damage that you've caused, you're likely to have some well-meaning friends tell you that you're being too hard on yourself. They may encourage you to minimize or justify the behavior. For many of us, our friends have been engaged in the same types of behavior that we're putting on our list. Now, if you'll use a little empathy, you may find that they are feeling guilty or defensive, listening to you describe certain behaviors as harmful. Now, it's usually not helpful to try to convince our friends or family to adopt our recovery principles. How you should respond is simply tell them that you are in a program of recovery that you have decided to pursue, and that the program includes several specific exercises that you have made a personal commitment to complete. Now, one unique category of harm that you may be slow to recognize or may challenge you are instances of unintentional harm that you've caused. Don't give in to the temptation to omit these just because they were accidents, thinking this is a form of minimizing or justification. To paraphrase the Life Recovery Workbook, our addictive or compulsive behavior affected our moods, emotions, and our judgments. And then the people around us suffered consequences, such as, quote, silent scorn, pouting, depressive bouts, as well as squandered finances and lost opportunities. The concept of harm includes all the various consequences that others have experienced as a result of our actions. There is no denying that taking step 8 is difficult and is labor-intensive. Do not lose heart. You've worked hard to get this far in the 12 steps, so you know you can do it. Prayerfully let go of your doubt and of any impatience that may creep in. Talk openly with your siblings in recovery, especially those who are farther along in the 12 steps. You are making progress towards a spiritual awakening and a freedom that is more than worth all your hard work. Now, when the time is right, we look forward to presenting our Step 9 videos to you. Until then, we pray God's blessings on your efforts. On behalf of Life Recovery Today TV, I'm Dr. Joe Elliott. Thank you for watching.
Welcome back. Well, as Dr. Joe Elliott said, if you've made it to step 8, somehow you've had this realization that attitudes and actions of others cannot force you to do or not do anything. I'm responsible for my own life. Well, if you've never started a recovery journey, or if you feel stuck somewhere in those early steps, we'd love to help you with that. Because, as I mentioned earlier, this 8th step, it was something that I did that changed everything. See, I knew that when I had done things that were wrong, I knew I was going to be forgiven by God for those things. I knew that God's grace was for me just like for anybody else. But I had hurt a lot of people. I didn't care. It was all about me. It was selfish. And so I started to make that list of the people that I had harmed. And one by one, I either wrote a letter, or I made a phone call, or I arranged to meet with them face to face. As I recall, my list was somewhere around 50 different people. Not one negative experience in all 50. And when it was over, something very transformational happened to me. Not only did I know God had forgiven me, but for the first time I could look people in the eye. I didn't have to wonder if this was somebody that knew someone from out of my past or something. My past had been resolved face to face or on the phone or in the form of a letter. It was true freedom. That's the wisdom of the steps. It's one thing to say, God, I'm sure sorry for what I did. It's another thing to want to make it right, willing to make it right. I hope you have that willingness. If you don't, you call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and we'll help you. We can connect you with a group of people, with a coach, a counselor, and all you have to do is call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. I'm so glad that you joined us today, because this step, the 8th step, is one of my favorite. It changed my life. And here's something else. I sure hope I'll get to see you next time on Life Recovery Today.
Thanks for joining us for Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. We hope this program has helped you integrate God's truth and wisdom into your recovery journey. This program is brought to you by New Life Ministries, and it's your support that keeps this program on the air. When you contact us for any reason, be sure to let us know that you watch on NRB. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to liferecoverytoday.net. Please join us again next week for more Life Recovery Today.